Week 1 of the preseason is in the books, and while it's easy to get caught up in the hype, there are also some early warning signs you cannot ignore. Today I'm breaking down 5 players I'm avoiding after what we saw in preseason action, from depth chart surprises to concerning usage, questionable production, and emerging competition. These are the situations that make me pump the brakes on certain players. We'll talk about wide receivers who aren't with the first team, running backs losing valuable reps to emerging talent, and players whose preseason usage might be telling us more than we realize. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Hey. The first guy that we're going to be talking about here is Jalen Coker for the Carolina Panthers. There's some really alarming things going on with him. He did not start at all with the first team. It was Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, and Teteroa McMillan as the first 3 receivers. So Coker, I don't think, is going to get on the field outside of an injury or if they're playing in 4 wide receiver sets. So that's a big red flag for Coker owners. I know he was getting a lot of buzz late last season because of some of the performances he was putting up. But guys, I think he is very much a trade target right now. Get him off of your lineups immediately for whatever you can get. If you can get a 3rd round pick for him, I think that's a steal. But some people really like Jalen Coker, guys. I know his film seems pretty decent, but you know, he's an undrafted guy at a Holy Cross. You look at his workout metrics here. 4.57 isn't nothing crazy, but you can sell him on the burst score and the catch radiuses. He did have some pretty bursty performances, and you know, he runs routes fairly well as well. So that's pretty solid stuff. He ended up being the wide receiver 83 despite not playing a lot of the year. So you could sell people on that. But when you look at some of the efficiency metrics, you know, the target accuracy, Bryce Young was very inaccurate last year. You know, he was decent, better on down the stretch, but still wasn't up to par. You see yards per route run wasn't anything crazy. Yards per target, true catch rate, target separation. None of these are particularly good numbers here. And if you look at where he's going right now on Keep Trade Cut, he's the wide receiver 71. Overall. So you still got a decent amount of value, right? You can trade him for one of the up and coming rookies right now, you know, fairly easily. So if you can get him off your team for a pick or basically refresh him for one of these rookies, I think that would be a phenomenal choice for you and your dynasty team. Getting a little more high profile here, James Cook is the next guy on my list with the Buffalo Bills. And guys, even if he didn't have any contract situation stuff going on, I still would have him on this list for a few reasons. First thing, let's go ahead and look at his season stats over the past few years. So you see his first year, he didn't play all that much, but only had 3 total touchdowns. The next year he played the entire year, 6 touchdowns total, and then he had 18 touchdowns that really fluffed him up to the RB8 last year. He didn't have a particularly good amount of rushing yards or a particularly good amount of attempts either. And yeah, he caught the ball a little bit, but definitely not as much in 2023. His performance was very much propped up by touchdowns. So I don't think he comes anywhere close to a RB1 this year. And as of right now on Keep Trade Cut, he's the RB17. And that's with him being almost 26 years old, coming into his contract year where he's basically sitting out now. He did not play last week in the preseason game, even though his coach thought he was going to and they were expecting him to. And then if you look at some of the efficiency metrics, 25th in yards created. That's something that I look at all the time. Yards created per touch, 33rd. None of these are particularly good metrics for him. You look at the productivity, not super high in receptions. Receiving yards, nothing too great there either. You know, he didn't have a lot of opportunities per game either. Not a high snap share either. It's a lot of stuff here. He wasn't even top 15 in carries, and he ended up being the RB8. So I know a lot of people are really high on him and they think the contract situation is just going to figure itself out, and that might happen, but worst case scenario, this guy doesn't play at all this year and takes the Le'Veon Bell route, and his value takes a massive decline because of that. or he does play, and I guarantee you he does not maintain his value of an RB8 or even an RB17 like Keep Trade Cut has him. So this would be a great time to cash out on James Cook. Here's a guy that has been fairly popular in a lot of these sell high or sell videos, and I think it's for good reason. Jordan Addison is definitely a guy that I think is worth selling right now, even if it's at a low point because of the suspension. I still think you should get him off of your rosters pretty much immediately. His past 2 seasons, nothing great in terms of the receiving yards. He hasn't had a 1,000-yard year yet, but it's been propped up due to big boom weeks where he's getting multiple touchdowns. That's why he's been effective over the past couple of seasons, is because of these touchdowns, these deep shots, things like that. And with him, yes, he has the explosive play upside. Yes, he's probably the wide receiver 2 on the Minnesota Vikings. He does have the 3-game suspension, which maybe you want to wait that suspension out and wait for him to have a big game and then try to sell him. Yes, that's probably the best way to do it, but I think you should get him off your rosters right now and just try to get as much as you can for him in the interim, because I think JJ McCarthy, I love him, and I think he offers a lot of upside at quarterback. I don't think he's got the deep ball, and I don't think he's going to be able to hit Jordan Addison on these deep balls a lot. And obviously JJ McCarthy is still a question mark at quarterback. We don't know how good this passing game is going to be with him. So with all of these questions, his production has been propped up on touchdown upside, which is not sustainable. That's why James Cook is also a sell high, or a sell in this case. So yeah, Jordan Addison, you see him right now in Keep Trade Cut. He's the wide receiver 26. Despite him basically only doing that last year, fantasy points per game, he was 22nd, despite having an even better year in 2023, interestingly enough. But he did miss a couple of games. But yeah, with Jordan Addison, guys, I think his upside's just going to go down and down every single year now. And with the quarterback question marks, Justin Jefferson being there, they drafted a guy in day 2 in Tai Felton, who I like a lot as well. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Jordan Addison in some ways. I think it's just going down and down in terms of value for Jordan Addison in the coming years. So now I think is the best time to ship him off your team. I've been saying it all off season. I think Brian Robinson's a decent running back, but he can't stay healthy consistently, and Jacory Crosky-Merritt is a menace. Yeah, we love the size with Brian Robinson, 6'2", 224, and he can punch the ball in on the goal line when needed, but he's 26 now. You know, he was drafted all the way back in 2022, and what has he shown for it thus far? 3 straight 700-yard years. You know, he had 8 touchdowns last year, and he's always hovered around 22nd in fantasy points per game, 28th last year. And he always misses 2 or 3 games each year. I know he got shot a couple of years ago, but he just hasn't been efficient, right? We look at his efficiency metrics: 36th in true yards per carry, yards per touch, 35th, yards created, 30th, yards created per touch, 37th. These are not efficient metrics. And if we just go based off what we saw from Jacory Crosky-Merritt in one game, he offers a lot more burst, a lot more explosive upside. Eckler is kind of a thing of the past, unfortunately. 2021, 2020 Eckler was something else. He's not that guy anymore, unfortunately. And Jacory Crosky-Merritt, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think by maybe week 5, week 6, I think Jacory Crosky-Merritt could win this running back room. And if you look at Brian Robinson, yeah, he finishes the RB 29 last year. He's still hovering around the RB 30 mark right now. I think you could trade him right now for a second round pick even. And I think after this season, his value is going to plummet because of the emergence of Jacory Crosky-Merritt, or just yet another underwhelming season from Brian Robinson, which makes it very likely he doesn't get re-signed and then ends up getting signed as basically a short yardage back, you know, like a Gus Edwards situation. Ironically, Gus Edwards is right here. I think he gets signed to a team as a short yardage back, and then his value really crumbles after that. I don't think Washington re-signs him, and this is just going to be a bad situation waiting to happen for Brian Robinson. I think now is the perfect time to get him off of your squads and get hopefully a second round pick for him. Look, I hate to say this because Breece Hall, coming out of Iowa State, was one of my favorite running backs. I've done a film breakdown on him as well, and I really liked a lot of what I saw, but the explosiveness is just not there anymore, and his efficiency has gone down and down each year, kind of similarly to how Travis Etienne's career has gone thus far. And, you know, maybe it's not all his fault. I know the Jets' O-line was pretty poor at run blocking last year, but he's just got some monsters behind him that are ready to eat. You got guys like Braelon Allen that looked spectacular in the preseason, and he came on strong at certain parts of the year last year. And then you got Isaiah Davis, who was showing out to be, you know, the third down back in preseason. Yeah, it's only one preseason game, but it looks like Breece Hall is not going to have as many opportunities this year to run the ball as he did last year. And you look at what he did last year in the past few years. Yeah, in 2023, he caught a ton of passes, 76 receptions, 591 yards, and 9 touchdowns. He was kind of like 2023 Achane, right? The 2023 version of 2024 Achane. And he ends up being 6th in fantasy points per game. He drops all the way down to 17th. Guys, he's been coming off multiple injuries now throughout his career that's really zapped his explosiveness. I love his vision. I love how he follows blocks. I love some of his agility, but his speed is just not there anymore. And I think, you know, his RB12 value right now in keep trade cut is just way too overblown. And I think if you can get him off your team right now for, you know, a parallel move at running back, I think that would be a phenomenal move for your dynasty team. Yeah, he's only 24 years old, but I think the door is opening up for him to leave the league sooner than people might expect. And those are 5 players I'm steering clear of after week 1 of the preseason. Preseason isn't everything, but it does give us clues, and when we combine what we see with depth chart moves and past production, the picture becomes a lot clearer. Who's on your avoid list after this weekend? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you found this helpful, and subscribe for more preseason reactions and weekly breakdowns. And if you want even more in-depth rookie and fantasy talk, join the Bobby's Big Board Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you guys as always for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey.